Hello, and welcome to this General Electric presentation. This presentation looks at governance at GE, an in-depth look at General Electric corporate structure and accountability. This presentation is brought to you by Tom Smith, Josh Parks, Ira Price-Thompson, and Henry Bray. General Electric today. A brief history of the General, known colloquially by staff and those well associated with the business as the General, and founded by American icons Thomas Edison and J.P. Morgan, GE has a prestigious history as a juggernaut in the American business world and American culture. A pioneering icon, GE has spearheaded many of the last century's technological breakthroughs, including the light bulb, heavy industry, energy, healthcare, home appliances, and even broadcasting and music. However, GE has struggled entering the new millennium, seeing its market capitalization drop from $600 billion at the start of the century to $53 billion today. This has led to sudden changes in leadership, changing CEOs 3 times in just under 3 years. In addition to this, the company is also hampered with high debt and liabilities, with the largest pension deficit of any Fortune 500 listed company, estimated to be around $22.4 billion. With the current pandemic leading to reduced cash flow, GE has recently frozen the retirement benefits of around 20,000 long-term employees in a move designed to reduce its deficit and debt pile. In addition to this, GE's leadership team have also agreed to take a 25% pay cut in order to help the iconic American manufacturer navigate through the crisis. We are currently attempting a turnaround plan with our current CEO and chairman, H. Lawrence Culp Jr., attempting to redefine our core business, raising cash and helping to shore up our balance sheet and reduce the business's debt pile. This includes spinning off and selling businesses that do not align with GE's current strategy. We have sold our last consumer products business, GE Lighting, in order to focus on more profitable areas such as renewable energy and healthcare technology. In a statement following the sale of GE Healthcare's biopharma division, Lawrence Culp Jr. said, "This demonstrates that we are executing on our strategy by taking thoughtful and deliberate action to reduce leverage and strengthen our balance sheet." There are 2 generally accepted board formations, unitary and 2-tier/dual board. Unitary boards include both executive and non-executive directors and tend to make decisions as a unified group. This is more commonly known as the Anglo-US system. A dual board system consists of a supervisory board and executive board of management, with a clear separation of function between the supervisors and management. Being a manufacturing conglomerate holding company, GE currently has a 2-tier system of board functionality. GE's current board structure contains a supervisory board of independent directors, with the CEO being the only non-independent member of the board, as a representative for both the supervisory board and the executive board. This leads to better flow of information, leading to more transparency, better reporting to shareholders, more evenly distributed power, and a better scope for innovation. However, some criticisms of GE's current board structure, such as internal executive appointments, creating conflicts of interest as well as losing external perspectives, a disproportionate amount of power given to the CEO and chairman compared to other board members, as well as groupthink issues, which refers to the deterioration of individual thought and judgment resulting from pressures within a group of directors. The Cadbury report from 1991 is also worth a mention, which sets out a code of best practices for businesses to follow, suggesting things such as the separation of chairman and CEO, a formal nomination process for directors, as well as limitations to the length of tenure of directors on the board. So, how does General Electric fare on its board of directors and compliance compared to the Cadbury report? Although GE has a combined chairman and CEO role which has been condemned by the Cadbury report, fortunately, due to the company focusing on an independent elected body, this allows high scrutiny from its shareholders. GE provides a clear and transparent proxy statement as well as a regular board meeting, which will be spoken about later within this presentation. GE's financial and governance report mentions how 10 of 11, 91%, of directors are independent. This is over the 50% split between non-independent and independent directors recommended by codes such as the UK Code of Governance and codes popular in the US. The current average tenure of GE's board members is 3.2 years, with shareholder approval required for a longer tenure. At the present time, 73% of board members have been members for under 3 years. We, however, still believe that there could be improvements to be made on GE's board structure. GE's financial reports can be questioned due to the difference in power of the CEO and other directors. We believe in the separation of chairman and CEO, which will lead to higher levels of accountability amongst board members and wider variety of expertise, leading to a more diverse and transparent leadership. Finally, I'm going to be talking to you about diversity. Diversity is important to GE. The board leads by example with a high ratio of women and ethnically diverse directors on the board. 36% of the board is female. Board leadership is split 50-50 between women and men. 18% of the board are ethnically diverse. GE is making a commitment to close the gender pay gap at its organisation by promising to place 20,000 women in technical roles by 2020. The company also wants to obtain a 50-50 gender representation in all its entry-level technical programs. This shows that leadership at GE trickles down and affects the whole company.
Unlike the UK, the US doesn't have compulsory codes of corporate governance, only those which are advisory. In 2017, there were 2 corporate codes of governance produced in the US, but these were then improved upon in 2019 by the Business Roundtable. Despite being produced in 2002, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act offers guidelines on auditing and financial disclosure that companies should be following. This is still relevant today. The UK Corporate Governance Code is widely accepted by firms around the world, but is compulsory to UK firms. It incorporates the comply or explain rule from the Cadbury report. This means companies must have a strong reason for falling short of the criteria stated by the report. This suggests GE should consider these codes when evaluating their own transparency in order to serve good corporate governance. GE produces a corporate governance report every quarter. This report talks about the different aspects of corporate governance and how GE is meeting them, including attendance of shareholders and non-executive directors at board meetings. These reports are then checked and signed off by the company secretary and the designated compliance officer. Since Larry Culp has been the CEO, all compliance measures have been met at every meeting. These facts suggest that GE is moving in the right direction in regards to corporate governance. We are improving all the time and working hard to fulfill our responsibility to corporate governance and our shareholders. At GE, we hold a board evaluation every year. This is carried out by the Chief Independent Director or an external specialist in CG. This evaluation looks at a number of areas such as priorities of directors, communication, and then issues directors may have. To improve upon our board evaluation, we should make it clear that our directors are up for re-election every year. We should also include information about how long our chairman is allowed to be in his current role. If this information, along with the annual re-election of the directors, is to be excluded, we must make a strong case as to why this should be allowed to happen, as required by the Cadbury report. Larry Culp issues a chairman letter every year. These are accessible to the public and describes the values of GE. It mentions the specific goals of the company. This is important for stakeholders such as customers, as it shows you where the company wants to go, but also for the staff because it motivates them and makes sure their beliefs are in line with the company's. He also talks through the performance of the company in the previous year and the improvements they want to make. This gives shareholders and other stakeholders an indication as to how the company performed and where it can improve on the next year. The statement is easy to read and concise. This means the important information is not getting lost and is easily available to the stakeholders. GE's annual report builds on information in the chairman's letter. It contains all the information academics like Nordberg and Tricker say are needed for a good annual report. This suggests the annual report satisfies its role and is useful to the stakeholders. Something we should look to improve upon, however, is the fact that the annual report is 140 pages long. Long annual reports have been criticised as the mass of information can be used to distract shareholders from bad news and hides information. To improve corporate accountability, GE should look at taking out some of the less useful information that maybe isn't needed. This will make it more concise and is known as cutting out the clutter. GE fully discloses the pay of 5 of its named directors, including the CEO, Larry Culp. Also, in the same report, there is information on GE's audits as well as a breakdown of its board meetings. The depth of the report shows how GE is making moves towards a more transparent practice. By making the compensation of the company's directors accessible to the public, GE reduces the risk of corruption. The board is less likely to fail agency relationships as its remuneration is made public. This then reduces the agency cost, meaning there is more money available to GE to satisfy all its stakeholders through the company's operations. To improve GE's financial disclosure, it should include more directors and independent directors in its report. As the report only offers information about one board member, it may lead to questions such as why are the rest of them not included. This may be seen as suspicious, even when completely innocent. This suggests that GE is not disclosing its financial information as well as it should be. The HMRC are questioning an agreement from 2005, and GE are accused of hiding relevant passages and relevant information from them. The disagreement could lead to paying 15 years worth of tax plus the interest. Now, while this may be innocent, it does highlight a better need for accountability and comes dangerously close to failing the Sarbanes-Oxley Act due to the lack of clarity provided. In 2019, GE were accused of producing fraudulent financial statements to hide the extent of their financial issues. Whilst these claims are now considered false, they did lead to a drop in stock price. The lack of clarity led to us letting down shareholders. Mistakes such as these represent GE of the past. However, we want to make sure this does not continue. We need to produce clearer, more detailed financial statements going forward. By improving the clarity of our financial statements, GE will be more transparent. This therefore leads to better serving corporate governance. Research shows that better disclosure and transparency leads to better performance. Therefore, these changes are essential to our company.
The following slides will be about remuneration, how remuneration is controlled and implemented at General Electric. Remuneration is how employees are compensated in return for their work. This can be through a variety of different options other than just wages, such as bonuses and company-bought cars or phones. There are several problems which could be created from a company performing poor remuneration. One of the main problems with remuneration within a company is that senior staff of higher roles tend to get what seems to be an unfair amount when compared to the amount that a younger colleague would get for similar work. It can also be bad for a company if the amount of rewards offered to employees are not based on how good they perform, as it could lead to people getting lazy and just taking well from the company instead of helping the company get wealthy. This can cause fat cats to be created. A fat cat is a corporate businessman who gets paid an excessive amount of money despite not doing the corresponding work to merit that level of pay. An example of this would be a former CEO of Disney who received over $737 million in compensation, despite the fact that the company's 5-year net income had shriveled by an average of 3.1% each year for a 5-year period. This amount of money being awarded to someone who does not have to work hard to keep getting the massive bonuses means that they will not act in the best interest of the company and will instead consume an excessive amount of the company's capital, which could have been used to make the company more efficient and profitable.
Larry Culp, the CEO of General Electric, has a pay structure which is comprised of 4 basic components, which are his salary, which is based at $2.5 million, his bonus, which is roughly $5.6 million annually, and annual equity rewards in the form of a 2018 PSU inducement, which have a $15.5 grant date fair value. Other executives seem to go off a similar pay system, but with less total pay.
I will now go into how each aspect of an executive's pay is verified, again using Mr. Culp as an example for each other executive's pay structure. Starting with salary, the Compensation Committee took into consideration the fact that Mr. Culp had 14 years of experience as a highly successful public company CEO prior to joining General Electric and the importance of attracting Mr. Culp to the role. This is usual for CEO's pay, specifically within the US energy sector due to the competitive and monopolistic nature of the job. For executive bonus, Mr. Culp's bonus target is set at 150% of salary. Mr. Culp's bonus target reflects the committee's belief that the majority of Mr. Culp's cash-based compensation should be contingent on performance. This is positive as it provides incentive for Mr. Culp to work harder and in a way that benefits General Electric instead of solely doing whatever is best for himself. Another aspect is annual equity awards. Under the terms of his employment agreement, Mr. Culp was guaranteed an annual equity grant solely in the form of PSUs, with a grant date fair value of $15 million beginning in 2019, and to be awarded on the same terms as the PSUs granted to the company's other senior their executives. Mr. Culp was granted a PSU award in March 2019 with a grant date fair value of $15.5 million, consistent with his employment agreement, and the final determination of how many shares will be earned, if any, will be based upon General Electric's relative total shareholder return versus the S&P 500 for the period from the grant date of March 19, 2019 through December 31st, 2021. The final aspect of pay is the 2018 PSU inducement. As an inducement to Mr. Culp accepting the role as chairman and CEO in 2018, he was granted a one-time award of PSUs that will pay out as a number of General Electric shares if the company's stock price appreciates significantly during the 4-year performance between the period of October 1st, 2018 and September 30th, 2022. Achievement of the performance goal will be measured against a baseline price of $12.40, with the number of shares to be delivered based upon the highest average closing price of the company's stock for any 30 consecutive trading days during the performance period as follows. 1. Threshold at $18.60 for 2.5 million shares. Second, for target at $24.80 for 5 million shares, and the maximum at $31 for 7.5 million shares. As of December 31st, 2019, the performance criteria for a threshold payout of these PSUs is not met. No shares will be awarded if the threshold 50% appreciation level is not met, and if the 30 consecutive trading day average of General Electric closing prices between the threshold, target and maximum levels, a proportionate number of shares between those levels will be earned. The inducement award will be adjusted to also factor in the performance of any businesses that are spun off to General Electric investors and for any extraordinary dividends. Once again, this shows that General Electric value a performance-based reward system and will even consider removing a large amount of PSU bonuses if sufficient criteria is not met. In more extreme cases, the executives could simply be replaced. General Electric seems to monitor remuneration for its executives by carefully evaluating how each executive has performed and basing how much their bonuses should be on these results. This is a positive aspect of a company as it provides incentive for executives to perform better, whilst at the same time it makes sure that the company is not spending in excess of money on people who do not deserve it. This is crucial as the total pay of top executives is often one of the largest costs a company has to pay. Overall, it shows that the bonuses are fair, although this requires a lot of audit work to make sure that all the executives are performing well and not just mimicking good performance to get more money. In extreme scenarios, General Electric may replace a senior executive or even a CEO if they are not performing at the required standard.
Hello and welcome to this segment of our presentation. Today I'll be talking to you about risks at GE, i.e. General Electric, and our approach to managing risk. As a company, we acknowledge that risk brings about complications. Although the risks themselves present difficulties and monetary damage may arise as a direct result, risks present opportunities for innovation and growth. Here at GE, we always aim to remain aware of forthcoming risks and use these risks to our advantage, and we do so through intricate risk management techniques. These will be discussed later on in the presentation. At General Electric, 4 of the 5 members of our audit committee oversee our risk management. These members, Ashton, Catherine, Paula and Leslie, have qualifications relating to risk management, along with their other accolades. Their expertise help in giving the team the knowledge needed to succeed during the execution of strategies and with our approach towards managing risk. So, how do we perceive risk at GE? Well, risk can be perceived and managed in many intricate ways, but for the purposes of reporting and objective setting, we divide risk into 4 main categories. These are operational, strategic, financial, and legal/compliance risks. This helps us enable us to tackle different areas of vulnerability within the business with increased accuracy and efficiency, thus ameliorating the effectiveness of our risk management. As mentioned in the second bullet point on the slide, pestle factors will affect the risks that we come across in our business environment. We always ensure that our employees and board members remain aware of these pestle factors so that we are able to anticipate and prepare for the ensuing risks. On the slide you can see how we define each type of the 4 aforementioned risks. In order to avoid over-elaborating, I'll simply give 4 examples of risks we come across. We deal with the difficulties that come with taking on large projects, operating in an extremely competitive environment, tough liquidity targets, and regulations of the industries we operate in, for example, the renewable energy industry. Handling risks requires an internal control system. This comprises of the processes designed, implemented and maintained within the company, which provide assurance that financial statements are represented fairly and accurately. This is integral for providing transparency to our shareholders, and therefore why we place such huge importance on a strong internal control system, as mentioned in our 2019 annual report. As our shareholders, you will be reassured to know that based on the relevant framework and our established criteria, that internal control over financial reporting was effective as of December 31st, 2019. So, to link this back to risk management, risks bring about opportunities, and our internal control system allows us to maintain awareness of the threats to successful business growth whilst we innovate and take on new ventures. It also provides you, our shareholders, with the assurance that we are administering and coordinating in an ethical and intricate manner as an organisation. Here are some examples of internal controls that we have in place here at GE. The rotation of our lead audit partner once every 5 years is an example of a mechanism which avoids familiarity bias and maintains the independence of our external auditor. It is worth mentioning the Turnbull report and the significance it has had on influencing corporate behaviour and decisions relating to risk management. The Turnbull report is essentially a document which outlines the importance of internal controls and is a tool we use at GE. So, to conclude, GE expects to face a range of difficulties in the near future as a result of coronavirus and its ensuing effects. The global business environment will continue to fluctuate and remain unpredictable. Therefore, we will place an increased importance on managing risk whilst also aligning our approach to risk with our strategic goals for the next year, which are improving our financial position and strengthening our businesses. The latter will be achieved through driving sustainable operational and cultural change.
Thank you for watching.